If you've ever stood in the pulpit wondering if anyone's actually listening, or if your sermons are changing lives, or just filling time, or maybe even boring people, this is the conversation for you. I'm here with my good friend, Pastor Binh Nguyen, and we're going to be talking about his preaching. So, Binh, welcome and take us through your weekly sermon prep framework from initial text selection to your Sunday delivery. Give us an idea of how you put it all together.
Okay, I'm a Bible preacher, so I preach the text. I map out my preaching a year in advance. So every
Mm,
week, I'm usually preaching. So I will look at the passage that has been allocated, and I have a schedule. Yeah, I'm quite structured as an individual. So do you want to hear it? It goes a bit
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this.
absolutely.
Okay, so Wednesday after lunch, I start looking at the text. I look at the passage, do some exegetical work. I have to get my structure before I leave home, and so that's my game plan. By 5:30
Right.
p.m. on Wednesday, I've got to get my structure, and then I get to go home. Otherwise, I'm staying back in the office.
Yep.
And then on Thursday, John, I write for the whole day. And my goal by the end of Thursday is to get to 85% of my message,
Mm,
which leaves me the second half of Friday just to finish off my message. And
yep.
then on Saturday night, John, I do a lot of editing. I edit, and then I deliver. So that's kind of like a snapshot of my
Okay.
weekly structure. Yeah.
So with structure, talk us through a bit about the structure. Do you have a template that you work off in your mind or on your
Yeah.
computer? Is there a
Yeah.
what is the structure? If we looked at your template, what would it actually say? What words would be on the screen?
Yeah. Um, wow. Where do I start, John? And look, and I'm still trying to figure this out too. Okay, so I'm no expert. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
still
That's
trying to
fine.
learn how to do this. I start my Wednesday afternoon with some simple hermeneutics principles. So I stick to certain
Right.
rules and tools that I use. Right, and I think
Yep.
that's very, very important. I think you've got to do some work in understanding the text.
Yeah.
So that 4 or 5 hours on a Wednesday afternoon is very important to me. Trying to understand the original intent, the language involved,
Right.
um, the genre, like what's going on here. I'm trying to get
Yep.
the there and then first, John,
Yep.
before I do anything. And
Yep.
that
Okay.
takes a bit of work. I don't know about you, but for me, that like I've been doing it for nearly over 20 years, and that
Yeah.
still takes a lot of work. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, John, it's just hard work, eh?
What
And
are the
then
main tools that you use to help you doing that hermeneutical study?
Yeah, yeah. So the typical tools that we have, things like good Bible software like Logos, got
Yep.
to have good, the selection of Bibles.
Yeah.
You've got to have your commentaries. You've got to have your lexicon, your dictionaries. You've got to have your concordance. You've got to get all that. Some good theology books out there, and try to understand what the text is saying first before you even get your structure. So before I even get
Right.
my structure, I'm trying to understand the there and then. I look at
Right.
language, I look at the context, I look at the original writer, the audience, the setting. I'm trying to understand what it meant for the original audience before I even
Yep.
bring it to my congregation. And so
And so on
that's
Thursdays, you're writing more after
yeah,
you've done all that deep study on Wednesday.
yep.
You're writing the sermon, actually.
Yes. I still write word for word. The only thing I
Mm,
do not write is my prayer. So to this date, over 20 years of doing this, I still write word for. I could pick up a sermon that I wrote, say, 20 years ago and read it. So I write word
mm,
for word. I think
mm.
about my introduction. So I have this thing where, I'm a typical 3 point preacher. 3 points.
Yep.
I believe in the principle of storytelling where there's this rule of three. You might have heard of this, like everything in three parts, 3 points,
Yep.
groups of three,
Yep.
lists of three. And they say that it's more memorable and people
Yep.
remember three. I think Steve Jobs, Mr. Apple himself, once said that three is a powerful number. Like it's not as complex as 20, but it has more
Yep.
information than two. And so I'm a typical 3 point preacher. So I start off with my intro where I'm trying to build attention. I'm trying
Yep.
to set a problem and I'm trying to hook people to listen to what I have to say. And then I
Good.
tell them my 3 points. I actually say, these are the 3 points. This is where we're going today. And then I begin to teach each of the 3 points, and then I
Mm.
conclude. And so that's just my typical message. But within
Hmm.
each point, I have also a structure as well, if you want to know what that is.
Yeah, yeah. Give us the structure of each point.
Yeah, so each point I will start off by like stating the point, and then I want to
Yep.
show you where I found the point in the text,
Right.
and then I want to explain the point, and then I want to cross-reference the point, and then I want to illustrate the point, and then finally I apply the point. And I kind of
Hmm.
stick to that rule. And then once I've applied the point, I transition to the next point. And then point two is the same. I try to define the point. I try to show you where it's in the text. I try to explain it, bring some theology into it, cross-referencing. I try to, illustrate it. And then I apply it before I move to my third point. And then, of course, after my third point, sometimes there's a fourth point, and then I conclude it. And so my message is around 35 to 45 minutes. And that's
Yep.
how I kind of structure my talk
Yeah.
for the last how many years?
Feeling stuck as a church leader? Growing your church doesn't have to be overwhelming. The Hub gives you step by step roadmaps to grow a healthy church in just 20 minutes a day. Join the hundreds of church leaders who found their breakthrough by accessing my 4 decades of ministry experience, which delivers genuine results. Start your free 14-day trial today at growahealthychurch.com/hub. I think for younger preachers, this is really important to grasp what Ben is sharing with us is that having a format, structure, framework, routine,
Mm.
however you want to call it, really does help you write, I think, excellent sermons because it saves you going off on all sorts of rabbit trails. And
Yeah,
I love the fact that you're bringing the text to life, you're illustrating the text through
yeah.
analogy or story. But then the big thing, and this is the thing I notice much, to be honest, Ben, when I hear other preachers preach is, I one of the questions I have that I try to answer when I'm preparing a sermon is, what do I want people to do on Monday morning?
Mm, mm.
And I don't think enough preachers, this is my personal opinion, ask that question enough. What do I
Yeah,
want people to do? Not just do, but on Monday morning when they're heading to work or off to study or doing whatever their routine is, what do I really want them to do
yeah,
with this knowledge? So I love the fact that you've got strength there in that
yeah.
whole application area.
I think
Do you?
I think application is so important, and for me, I don't wait to the end of my sermon to apply. So what I tend to do is I try to apply it in every point, so that
Yeah,
I can move to the next point. And I do that so that the people that I lose, like, oh, I've lost you at point number one, they've got
yeah,
a breather and they've got a bit of a pit stop to get
yeah,
back, pay attention for the second point. And I find that kind of work because they can go, yeah. I mean, look, if you listen to me long enough, you know that's my style, and the church understands that. Okay, Ben doesn't go everywhere. He's quite structured, and I'm an ex high school teacher, right? So I'm quite structured in the way I teach and preach, and I think it's worked. Now it's worked for me. It doesn't mean it'll work for everyone, but that's my style. But John,
mm,
I also want to say this, John. On Saturday night, I spend a lot of time editing. Like I
mm,
spent a lot of time editing my messages. So my message starts with maybe around 60, 70 minutes, and I bring it down to around 35, 40 minutes. A lot of
mm,
editing because I asked myself the question, did that make sense? Was that just waffling? Did that illustration serve the purpose to explain that theological concept? Would my youth understand this? Would the person that is coming to worship for the first time even get something out of this? And so I do a lot of cutting and pasting and shifting things around, a lot of time editing, editing, editing. And finally, when I stop, that's it. And often I'm still editing just before I get on stage, just to make sure that what I say makes sense. Yeah, that's just me.
I love it. So let me finish off with this question. So Wednesday morning, you have a really challenging conversation with a church member who's very angry with you in the
Yeah,
church, or all of Wednesday morning, you've got a massive headache. You're popping
yeah,
Panadine to get through it, or suddenly one of your kids is sick and you've got to rush off to
yeah,
school to pick them up and bring them home. In other
yeah,
words, Wednesday afternoon is now a shocker.
yeah,
Um, what do you do with those scenarios that you're struggling with? Life gets in the way, and you know what it's like.
yeah,
We can get ill
yeah.
ourselves. What sort of fallback? Do you have a fallback way to work through that? How do you cope with that and handle that?
Yeah. So then what happens then is that I'm probably working Wednesday night.
Okay.
If not, I will make sure that the first half of Thursday will be my exegetical work, get my
Yeah.
structure, and then I'll be writing for the remainder of Thursday, and then my appointments for Friday morning will be shifted around because I think my primary role at Sun Life Church is the primary preacher and teacher. So that's a priority for me. And so if
Mhm.
anything that comes in the way where now I've got to attend because there's a crisis or something's happened at the church, then I've got to move all my Friday schedules to create space to write. And I'm still needing around 15 to 20 hours from the
Yeah.
from the point of study
Yeah.
to delivery.
Yep.
So I just need that time. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I'm still quite a slow writer, and I slow, yeah, process
I
in
think.
getting my message from the Bible to
Yeah.
the pulpit.
I think it's great because basically you're just rearranging your week because of the
Hmm.
priority of the preaching of the word. Well, one preacher who's dramatically affected my life was TD Jakes. He really rocked my world. And check out this video of the impact that TD had on my life and my preaching. Thanks so much for sharing with us today about your whole process, Ben.
My joy. Bye bye.